Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that shakes your faith in the system that's meant to protect us. It's about how one small police mistake spiraled into years of injustice, pain, and a truth buried under assumptions. This is the story of blind justice, the case they got wrong. It all began in a quiet suburban neighborhood in 2006. The morning was peaceful until a 911 call shattered the calm. A young woman named Emily Carter was found dead in her apartment, signs of struggle everywhere. The police arrived fast, sealing the area and beginning what they called a routine homicide investigation. But what followed was anything but routine. From the start, officers focused on one person, her boyfriend, Mark Jensen. Neighbors told police they'd heard arguments, and the two had been seen together hours before Emily's death. Within hours, Mark became the prime suspect, but as it turns out, the evidence that pointed to him was not what it seemed. Investigators found a broken vase, some blood on Mark's shirt, and text messages where Emily said she was scared. It sounded convincing. The police didn't look any further. They didn't check phone records beyond a few days. They didn't question other people who had access to her apartment. And they ignored a key piece of forensic data that could have changed everything. A set of fingerprints on the back door that didn't belong to Mark or Emily. Mark was arrested 2 days later. The media had its villain. The headline screamed, "Boyfriend kills young woman after argument." The city moved on, believing justice was served. But behind bars, Mark maintained his innocence. He said he left Emily's place around midnight after a heated argument, but didn't harm her. No one believed him, not even his own lawyer at first. As the trial started, the prosecution painted a picture of jealousy and rage. They used circumstantial evidence, the shirt stain, the argument, the timing. The jury was convinced. Mark Jensen was sentenced to 25 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. For the next 8 years, the case gathered dust. But one man refused to forget, Detective Laura Simmons, who had joined the department years after the trial. She came across Mark's file while reviewing old cases. Something about it bothered her. The lack of forensic depth, missing lab results, and unexplained fingerprints stood out. Laura decided to re-examine the case. She pulled out old evidence boxes from storage, dusty, half-sealed, some even mislabeled. Inside one of them, she found something strange, a hair sample that had never been tested. When she checked the evidence log, that hair wasn't even listed in the reports. Someone had overlooked it completely. She sent the hair for DNA testing using modern methods. The results came back within a week. The DNA didn't belong to Mark or Emily. It matched a man named Ryan Cooper, a convicted burglar who had lived 2 blocks away at the time of the murder. That discovery turned the entire case upside down. Laura started digging into Ryan's past and found that he'd been arrested for multiple break-ins around the same neighborhood, including one incident 2 weeks before Emily's death. There were even reports of him being seen near her building, but none of that had been followed up during the original investigation. The more Laura uncovered, the clearer it became Mark had been framed by circumstance, and the real killer had slipped through the cracks. When Laura presented her findings to the district attorney, there was hesitation. Admitting a mistake like that wasn't easy. But the evidence was undeniable. The fingerprints from the back door matched Ryan Cooper. The hair matched him. His DNA was on a cigarette butt found in Emily's balcony. The DA reopened the case. Within months, Ryan was arrested and confessed during interrogation. He had broken into Emily's apartment to steal valuables, but she came home unexpectedly. A struggle followed, and she was killed. He panicked and fled, leaving behind clues that were ignored. Mark Jensen was exonerated after spending almost a decade in prison for a crime he didn't commit. The press, that had once labeled him a murderer, now called him a victim of injustice. But for Mark, the damage was irreversible. His life, career, and reputation were destroyed. His parents had passed away while he was in prison, believing their son was guilty. At his release, Mark's first words were not of anger, but disbelief. "I lost everything because someone didn't double-check the evidence." That one sentence summed up the entire tragedy. After Ryan's conviction, an internal review exposed multiple failures. The lead detective on the original case had ignored forensic reports due to pressure to close the case quickly. Several key documents were found missing, and chain of custody records were incomplete. The department issued a formal apology, and Detective Laura Simmons received commendation for uncovering the truth. But she called it a bittersweet victory, saying, "Justice delayed isn't justice served. It's only justice repaired." The case of Mark Jensen became a landmark example in criminal justice reform studies, showing how confirmation bias can blind investigators. When police decide who the suspect is before all the evidence is reviewed, they stop looking for the truth. What's haunting is how close this mistake came to being permanent. If Laura hadn't reopened the file, the truth might have stayed buried forever. Today, the case is used in police academies as a lesson on investigative integrity and evidence review protocols. Mark Jensen now works as a speaker, advocating for criminal justice reform. He travels to universities and police departments, telling his story not to gain sympathy, but to remind others of the cost of assumptions. He once said in an interview, "If one detective hadn't questioned the story, I'd still be behind bars. Sometimes justice needs a second look." This story reminds us that the pursuit of truth isn't about ego, headlines, or closing cases. It's about doing what's right, even if it's uncomfortable. And it proves that one person's determination can undo years of injustice. The case closed with a new conviction, a cleared name, and a hard-earned lesson. The truth doesn't disappear, it just waits for someone brave enough to find it.